When it comes to picking your book cover, should you go glossy or matte? Let me break down the pros and cons for you so you can make the best decision for you, for your book, and for your specific cover. Now keep in mind, if you're traditionally published, you get absolutely no say in this, but the information here is going to help you to market better, so watch along anyway, and if you're indie, this decision is 100% up to you. Let me break down those pros and cons. So I exclusively publish my book in matte finish. I will not do glossy, but there's multiple schools of thought for this. People really like glossy covers because they look pretty and they're shiny and they're sparkly, and that is also their downfall. So people feel like glossy might look a little more professional, but when it comes to marketing, it actually really hurts your chances of being marketed, because any glossy cover is going to pick up the lights in the room. It will have spots of light that reflect over your title or over your graphics. It's going to make it really, really hard. People have to tip things at weird angles to then be seen properly. Now, I'm not holding up a glossy book because I don't want to call out anybody else's book, and I have not published in glossy because I don't do that, because I want to work with my marketing. So if I want people to be showing my books in photos or in videos, on their TikToks, on their Instagrams, I have to make it as easy as possible for them to then show off that book. So at this point, I can hold this book at any angle, any direction, and you're always going to be able to see it. If this were glossy, you would see multiple ring lights being reflected in it, and I would have to hold it at this angle. You can actually go through my TikTok where I have represented other people's books as sponsored deals or brand deals, and I've shown off their stories, and I've had to hold them at really weird angles so that people could see anything on the cover. So I strongly recommend staying away from glossy, but some people feel it's the professional version of this. Now I feel like matte is the most professional, not only for the marketing, but because it looks really, really nice. And while the glossy feels very glossy and satin-like, the matte finish has this beautiful, almost velvety texture to it, and it means people are not going to slip as they're reading it because it has more of a grip to it. It does mean it's going to be easier, and the downside with gloss is that the gloss does have a coating over it, so right along the top edges or the bottom edges or the side edges, it's going to start to peel at some point if you're not taking really good care of your book. So in the long run, I always recommend going with a matte finish because it does not peel the way that glossy covers peel. It does not reflect light that way. It's easier to hold. It feels so luxurious. It truly, truly does. And some gloss covers feel luxurious and some just feel cheap. So you have to be very careful with what printer you're going to be using there. But I always go with matte for mine, and I recommend that my authors go with a matte finish as well, just because overall it's going to be best. With that in mind, there are some colors that are going to pop more with gloss than with matte. These colors might pop a little bit more with that gloss. So anything that's going to be dark colored will pop a little bit more with that gloss, but again, everything else is harder about it. With lighter colors, you may want to go more with a matte finish because we don't necessarily have any difference in the popping of colors, and so it's going to be a little more functional for you. It's going to print a little bit nicer. Keep in mind, when we're printing book covers, colors will muddle together. We're going to get some muddy looks depending on what it is, so your cover designer will have to brighten whatever it is that you're doing for best printing results, and we've got lots of videos on that, including live videos of me creating book covers where I discuss this and show the exact techniques that you need to know in order to make your book cover look good when you are printing it versus when you are putting it out on the internet. And you want to make sure you're going through some of those because there's some really great details in there and tips and tricks along the way as well. Now, if you have questions on picking the right book cover for you, feel free to drop those down below. I would love to help you out. Certain genres have different standards, traditional versus indie have different standards, but just for practicality's sake, in 99% of the cases, I recommend a matte finish over a glossy finish just because it's going to be so much better, such a time saver. It's going to make a world of difference if you do go with matte versus a glossy cover. Glossy is kind of in the past, but some people still do it, and you can do whatever you want based on what you want or need inside of your book. Just keep in mind that once you make that choice, if you decide something different, it's going to be a lot of work to reformat it and do it with the printers. So think wisely before you make that decision, and feel free to ask questions of me and other authors. We'll be happy to recommend their suggestions for you and see what's going to be a best fit. We're going to be dropping more videos on the behind the scenes of how you can level up your author marketing, your writer marketing, your book covers, and more. So drop your questions down below as we continue to help you level up inside of this industry with daily videos here on the channel.